Welcome back to the party.
Hi.
Ew.
I haven't done this since like 8th grade.
You're also doing it like a little funny too. Like you gotta get some intensity. You're just like, yeah, there you go.
I'm
Welcome
doing it
everyone.
because of ore. Rock on.
We missed you guys.
We always miss you.
Always. This is by far one of my favorite hobbies.
Yeah. And a hobby it will remain until we get 1,000 subscribers, I learned.
And then we can monetize and get
And we
paid
can
3 cents.
per 1,000 views.
Heck yeah.
But our goal right now is 100 subscribers. So like, share, comment, or thing,
Please.
please.
All right. Well, if you haven't figured out what we're talking about today, then I think Caleb should say.
Well, some people do just listen to our podcast and they don't see that I have a board game next to me.
For me?
Yeah, yours is behind you and a little blurred because your camera's nice. Okay.
Thanks.
We are talking about the world-renowned game Catan.
Whoa.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of interesting that it's actually called Catan now. It's not the Settlers of Catan anymore.
Yeah, interesting because mine has like settlers as like the biggest word and Catan is small.
How old is your set?
Old. I want to say like 15 years. I got it off Facebook Marketplace.
You got it off Facebook 15 years ago?
No, recently. Somebody like got it. They were like, we have the new one, so we don't need the old one. And I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah, yours looks even older than like yours looks old enough that the border would be connected as hexes.
Well, I don't know. I've actually never played with it. I was gonna make a custom set, so I was gonna use this as a template.
Cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, the original Catan was the ocean border was a series of hexes.
Well, let me see really quick.
She's opening the box. Oh, it totally is.
Wow.
No way. That's a good set to have.
I'm like trying to see if like it says when it was like created. I think this is the third edition.
How do you tell you're a dish?
That's what they just told me.
Well, welcome to our podcast, everybody, where we read the rules of Catan. A general note on Catan rules. This is the 5th English language edition of Catan, aka Settlers of Catan. Over the years, the rules have been clarified, refined, and occasionally updated. As of January 1st, 2015, all of the rules in this version of Catan take precedence over any previously published rules.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's mine. That's at the back of my rule book.
Mine doesn't even have a rule book. I'm just realizing
Probably
that was
because
like,
yours is like running off the first edition of rules, at
whoa!
least.
Check this
What?
out.
What? A black robber? Is that what you're freaking out about?
Yeah.
Cool. Because he's gray now.
Yeah, interesting. And wooden dice.
Wow. Um, I this really has nowhere in our format. Did you know that Catan is worth it's like a $4 billion company?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's insane how crazy Catan is.
Yeah. So, um, now that we remember that we're on a podcast, what is Catan, Paige? What's the basic premise of the game?
Catan is a game where you world build with other players and you trade resources to build up your cities the fastest. And the person who gains the most ground, all the way to 10 points, wins.
Yeah. I will say you can win without having the most ground.
That is true. That is true. I guess let me rephrase that to the most influence.
Yeah. Whoever the dice likes the most.
Yeah, so I mean, to delve in a little bit further, there's 5 resources that you can trade. There's ore, wheat, sheep, wood, and brick. Some people call it stone and rock, and to those people, I say I love you, but come on.
Some people call wood lumber.
Ugh. Well, the reason that I say that's what it is because we read the rule book a lot, and the reason is to avoid fights, and it's just what it's called, people. Just what it's called. Anyway, as
It's
long
lumber.
oh no, I'm a hypocrite. I'm
It's
a
lumber.
hypocrite.
Right here in the
Just gonna
rules.
hide.
Forest produces lumber. Mountains produce ore.
But to be fair, my grief wasn't
Pasture
with
produces wool.
bleh,
We should play an entire game where we have to call it brick, lumber, or grain and wool.
gross. And if you mess up, you have to give us one of your record sources.
Yeah. Or your turn's just over.
Oh, that suck. Along with, I don't know, Catan, people say some people don't like it because they say it's hard. Some people don't like it because they say that it's just too complicated to learn. And I think honestly, you just got to find the right people.
Yeah, find people who play similarly to you. That's when it's the most fun, I think.
Yeah, I would say that. And going along with that, with the culture of the fans, Catan does have like tournaments and stuff. So like it can get pretty competitive, but I would say Catan is mostly played by like families and friends.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, the culture of the fans. Catan is one of those games. I feel like it's like people who enjoy board games up to people who are like board game nerds, like board gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Catan is honestly my favorite board game, and I've met people who take it way more seriously than I do, and I take it very seriously.
Yes, I would agree. I thought I was a huge board game fan, like especially with Catan. Same thing. There's always somebody who's like way more into it than I am.
Yeah, like I just met someone at church, and I just mentioned that like Catan is like our favorite game, and he just started listing off like, "Oh, we like all these games." I've never heard of a single game, and I can't even remember the name of one of them. I'm
My
just like,
thing,
okay, like you didn't say Pandemic. That's the one that I'm just a little bit like, okay, you're way more into board games than I am.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's my threshold. Like I'm not into Pandemic. I probably could be if I went to buy it, but
Yeah, so I say like if you're like wondering about the culture of the fans, there's some in there that are pretty intense that follow the rules by the letter, and then there's some that are like whatever, we could do whatever.
well, and that's what's interesting about the rules is that like there is some serious interpretation in the rules. Like we'll get into that in theories.
But I think we've set it up enough that we could probably go into like why do people love it, sashayed it.
Mhm.
Do you want to kick us off?
Yes. I think that people generally love it because and this is kind of like what I was saying. Like there's so much within the rules of the game that you can just like be creative. Like the object of the game is you're basically like in a barter society and you're just bartering with everybody to try to get uh to build up your specific settlements and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I think people enjoy how creative you can get. I think people enjoy how different it is every single time you play. Like it's not like Monopoly where like, it's the set order of like properties and like every like if you own Boardwalk in Park Place, you're gonna win basically.
Yeah.
Um like I've played games, so like in the game, people have their favorite resources. It's never sheep. For some people, it's brick. For some people, like myself, it's ore. I've had games where I'm set up on ore with the ore port, and the ore has red numbers, right? It's a recipe for winning,
Yeah.
but like I don't win because like they just like don't get rolled. And like that's honestly like what's partly fun about the game is that it's just like it's unpredictable. Like I had Park Place and Boardwalk, and I didn't win. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, and I think just like to summarize a little bit and agree with you, I think Catan has a good balance of chance and strategic play. Where like our mom will only ever play Uno because that is just luck. Whoever gets like the right cards, the right time, and whatever people place before you. It's not really strategy, I guess, unless you have the +4 card or something like that. But like, so she doesn't necessarily love playing like the strategic games, but I feel like Catan has just enough chance in it that it gets those players who like the chance games.
Yeah. Yes, it's a very chance strategic game. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. On the other end, though, I feel like people hate it because it's so mainstream. Like I've seen so many memes that are like, you get invited to a party and they pull out Catan. That's my cue to leave. like, like I've seen so many memes like that, or like you're on a date and he mentions he casually plays Catan, and then it's like instant red flag or something like that. And I think sometimes people don't give it a chance. Like they've had like a bad experience with it and they played with the wrong people and then they're just not into it.
Well, I do think that Catan is kind of like modern Monopoly, where it's like it's the game that'll tear people apart.
Yeah.
It's the game that like it takes longer than I think this is really where people really hate it is that it can take a long time.
Well, that's like because it's your first time, people try to take it slow.
Well, but also Dad's played Catan quite a bit, but he has such a strategic mind that every game is chess and he takes so long on every turn because he wants to try to figure not just that turn out, but 7 turns in advance what he's going to do.
Yeah, that is true. But I think it just goes back, you got to find the audience you want to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you hate it, try again.
Yeah, just kind of tell people that you because I feel like I've played with people who don't like it and like I'm able to give them a good time and then they like it.
Well, I also just feel like there's people who just genuinely don't like board games.
Yeah, or just games in general. Like Janessa has some siblings that they don't like, but I guess it's not fair to say they don't like games aren't their forte. They will play some card games, but like they don't play games as much as the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that there's just people who just don't care to get in that competitive side.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's Catan. I would say it's just that people just genuinely just don't like board games overall. But if you're a board game person, Catan is for sure one of them at your on your list.
Yeah, Catan is a must own. Um, so top theories. I feel like theories is probably just like the wrong verbiage for Catan. Like I feel like right here is where we should talk about like controversy of Catan. Like,
Yes, like controversial trades, controversial roles or
yeah,
rules. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you remember a couple episodes ago on our Ask Me Anything, I mentioned like the trading thing. I'm going to actually get into the rules to kind of explain what I'm talking about. So using the ports is called maritime trade or maritime. I don't know how to say it.
I don't know.
Although now that I'm reading it, I feel like it's very cut and dry because it says on your turn right there at the start.
Wow.
Ugh. On your turn, you can trade resources using maritime trade during the trade phase, even without involving another player. The most basic and unfavorable exchange rate is 4-1. Um, yeah, that's very interesting. I've never noticed that it says on your turn.
Interesting. So I think Caleb is trying to say sometimes what we do when we play like as a family, if Caleb owned a port, so for those of you who've never played Catan before, if you have a lot of one resource and you need a different resource, you can trade in 4 of one to get a different resource. But if you're built on like a port, it'll give you that advantage of you can trade 2 of one resource for a completely different resource. So like if Kaleb was on a sheep port, he could trade in 2 sheep for whatever one other resource of whatever he wants, right? But like let's say that I have 2 sheep. How do I use his port? So in the rules, what he just read said that it's on his turn. And for those of you that are just listening, Kaleb is 100% zeroed in on reading.
Well, it's because I've figured out why I think it's like why we play the way we play.
Okay, go ahead.
So it is on your turn, but like the controversy is so when it's your turn and I own the port, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You are still doing a maritime trade. I'm just allowing you to use my port. That's really what it comes down to.
Yes. So
There's
we
nothing
allow it.
saying, yeah, there's nothing really saying you may only use your own port. Let me double check that. I
And
don't think it says that you can only use one that you're built on.
it gets pretty convoluted. And here's why, right? Like so like we'll trade uses of port in an actual trade. So like one time I'm like, "Hey, can I trade you a brick to use your sheep port?" And Kaleb can say yes or no, and then all of a sudden that like completely expands the trade arena.
Yeah, well, and it we also play with debt.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if you give me this card right now, like sometimes I'll be like, hey, I'll trade you a wood for a sheep, you know, and you'd be like, no, I really need my sheep. And it'll be like, okay, well, I'll also throw in a wheat port use, so you can just use it whenever you want during the maritime trade cycle.
Yeah.
So that is another. So with that, I guess we are inconclusive on whether it's legal or not. I'm sure if I was in a tournament, it would not be legal to play like that.
Probably not. Well, also there's a couple other things that we do that like maybe you guys would be interested in, but one of them especially is the doubles. If you roll a double, you get to go again, sort of like Monopoly. The reason that we do this is just to introduce more resources and it sort of gets the game moving faster too. But if you roll doubles 3 times in a row, the robber gets placed on you, and it has to be a combined decision of all the other players or majority, because there's always that one player that's like, no, I don't want it to go there. So sometimes
But
it,
it should be unanimous unless the and like when I say that, like you don't want the other two people can't gang up on the third person, you know? Like
yeah,
if you and Preston were mad at me, you can't purposely put it somewhere where I'm next to Janessa because Janessa rolled the 3 doubles. You know, if there is a spot where it affects only the triple double roller, that's where it goes.
yes. And then um and then the person starting to the left gets to pick a card out of that person's hand. So if there were 6 people playing and that person rolled, each person would take it out. And so it'd be like -5 cards for rolling 3 doubles.
And if they only had 4 cards, the fifth person gets to draw from the bank.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So that's like obviously not in the rule book, but it does make the game move faster, which allows in my opinion, I feel like it allows the game to like flow better, I would say. Because sometimes you're just sitting there and then you're like, okay, I just use all my resources on my turn. I'm so excited for everyone to roll a number so I can like rebuild up my hand and my resource pile. And then everyone rolls a 7. And you're just sitting there like, okay, I didn't get one single card out of that whole like round. But the doubles really help with it, even though 7s aren't a double.
Yeah. Well, we do have a special robber rule too.
Oh yeah, we do. Go ahead.
We play that if the robber does not originate from the desert, you can place the robber back in the desert and draw whatever you want from the bank.
Which helps with fights.
Yes.
Because sometimes you just don't want to make an enemy. Because I feel like if you put the robber on one of us, we hold grudges.
Me specifically.
And me. Our spouses are really good about not doing that, but we are not.
Yeah, well, our whole family, like when we play as a family, if you wrong somebody in the first game of a 4 round Catan,
You're done for.
you're done for the rest of the night.
We
And
know
like
how to
we
hold a
we all
grudge.
do it, and we all know we shouldn't do it, but we still do it.
Well, okay, to be fair though, our dad was really good about teaching us that if you get offended, you stay and play the game.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is on game one, you get mad, and then we're playing a fourth game and you're still mad. Like,
I know, but we weren't allowed to leave the game, so we had to put our anger elsewhere, and that was revenge.
but you didn't have to stay for game four. You could have left after
Oh,
game
yeah,
one.
that's true. That's
That's what
true.
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Will I still do it? Yes.
Well, and I think another rule that we do is in Catan, you're only supposed to start with 3 cards. We start with 6.
Yeah, we just start with all 6. You're technically supposed to start with the 3 cards from the last settlement that you placed.
Yeah,
And it just goes faster if you start with 6.
that's true. I think the general theme of our extra rules is just getting Catan to move faster and less fights.
Yeah, well, that's the same with like our trades. Like I've played a lot of games with people where the trading is literally only like 1-to-1 cards that you have, and that's just not fun.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it is fun. Catan is fun in general, so and that's probably a good way to learn the game. But it gets frustrating when you have a stockpile of sheep and you need other things, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I did have like a friend, something that they did. It doesn't, I think it would have been fun, but when we did it, it was with newbies. So I don't know if that was necessarily the best, but like they played it where they flip over the pieces. So you can't see it and you blindly
Oh,
place.
yeah, I've played that way too.
So I think for me, that would have been like super fun because I've played Catan like hundreds of times. But like for newbies, I don't think that'd be as fun because they just don't understand the game as much.
I've played both where you flip over the resource, like you don't know what resource you're building on, but you see the numbers.
Hmm.
And then I've also played where you flip over the numbers.
Oh, that's cool.
It's not as fun.
Oh, not cool. So I think that's something else. It sort of goes along with why do people love slash hate it slash controversial thoughts on it. Is Catan can be modified to the people playing it. So I think that's why we were like, go find people who play like you.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I mean I still play like the regular rules every now and then with groups of people who want to play, but like this is just kind of what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, me too. And that's why we play together.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say what has come out of Catan.
Oh, you're jumping
The
straight to
pop.
babies right now?
Yeah, I mean, unless you have any other theories that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, controversies, and I think they'll just be kind of tips for people playing Catan. Um, so I ran into somebody who didn't know that in Catan there has to be 2 road spaces between each settlement. They were just building willy-nilly. Something to note with that, if someone has the longest road and they've just been working on the road, you can build your road to their road and put a settlement in the middle of their road and it cuts off their road as long as it's 2 away. It's a good thing to do, guys.
It's not a good thing to do, and it's really mean. That person was really close to winning, okay?
It's a really smart thing to do.
He
They
did it to
should have
me. He did it to
they sh
me.
You should have shorted up with a settlement too close.
Uh, what's dumb is I should have built I had that settlement. And I built it in the wrong spot.
Yep.
I think I think
So,
I think also like Catan is just your first game is gonna be a little bit like you're learning still, but as soon as you got it down, you got it down.
yeah. What's your typical strategy?
Um, I don't know if I want to tell you because we
Do
play
you want me to
together.
go first?
No, I can go. I think I usually pick, am I going to focus on road or I'm going to focus on cities? Because it depends on the numbers and I guess the order that you get to place down. But for me, if it looks like everyone is on ore and wheat, I try to go the opposite direction. I try to be a hot commodity to those playing. So then that way I can trade with them, right? So like I will either try, if I'm focused on roads, I'll focus on the cards needed for the roads, or if I'm focused on cities, but it's never the other. Although recently, like the past couple times that I've played, I've tried to put it on different resources. Like I wanted all five resources as an option, and it sort of worked. I don't know if it necessarily did, but I'm still playing around with that tactic. What about you?
Nice. Um,
I think I know it.
well, you think that I just build on ore,
No,
and it's because I'm addicted to ore.
no, I think I know your tactics.
My typical tactic, if you can build on the 8 and the 6, that's always good. That's like my first thought. Um, and then depending on what the 8 and 6 is on, if you can get the port, that is ideal.
That's what I was gonna say. Caleb's addicted to ore imports,
Yes.
but it serves him well.
Well, not if you go look at our sheet that we've been tracking. I average about 8 points a game.
It's true,
Um,
he does.
and but I don't win that frequently with you at least.
And that's because Caleb and I have a jaded past,
Yeah,
and it's hard to trust one
it's so
another.
dumb. She's like, do you remember 4 years ago?
Okay, but
I'm
then
not gonna
you
trade
say
with
it.
you.
But then you say the same thing. You're like, if you're losing, you're like, well, I'm just gonna lose and I'm not even gonna try. And then I like start to get ahead a little bit, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you cut off my longest road with a stupid settlement, and you win.
Get good, scrub. Okay, back to the strategy though. I will say that like my typical strategy, like I guess it's not like my typical strategy, like obviously the 8s and the 6s, but I do like to try and get at least 5 numbers at the beginning. 5 individual numbers because I mean you have a greater chance of rolling your own resources the more individual numbers you have. Like you don't want to build on a like you could build on a 6, 8, 9 and then a 6, 8, 5 and they're like the you only end up with 4 numbers that way. That's what I'm getting at. Like you have high probability numbers, but you only have 4 numbers.
Yeah, like I would say the statistics. So each, for those of you who've never played Catan, each number tile of the numbers that could possibly be rolled has dots underneath as showing like the popularity of rolls. So in a normal curve, right? Like in like statistically speaking, the 8 and the 6 are the most likely numbers. The 8, 6, 7. But 7 isn't an option.
Seven is the most likely.
Yeah, but it's like the bad roll, you know?
It's a bad number.
So the 8 and the 6 are the most likely to be given as a resource, right? But I've played games where they're not, where they rolled like 2 or 3 times, and then the people who trusted the statistic ended up losing
Why are you looking at me?
because that's you. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's like it's sort of like Rocket League, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because we just recorded it. But you said something in it that was like, if you want it to be competitive, you can make it competitive. You can make it complicated, and I think that's the same with Catan. If you want it to be complicated, make complicated trades, make complicated like rules. It's your game. No one's gonna come and be like, "I'm the Catan police. You can't do that role," and like flip over the table.
Okay,
Bomb.
well, I am like that though, but only if there's like something explicitly in the rules that says you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like the audience, right? Like with us, if we're playing with like a family, you feel comfortable being like that's a stupid role or a stupid
Yeah.
trade. But if you're at somebody's house, it's there. Oh, that is another thing that we do. If it's your house, you're the final yay or nay.
Yeah, house rules.
House rules. So like if Caleb came over to mine and Preston's house and there was a stupid trade and Caleb was like sort of against it, but I was for it, it's my house.
Well, I will say that's it's within rules. Like you do have you're not the like you are king of the castle, but like it's more of a
I'm the king of
Supreme
the
Court
castle, king of the
thing
castle.
where you're like, does this align with the rules? And if you determine that it's a little hazy and it doesn't necessarily line up with the rules, then but if I can prove through the if I can lawyer up and say, no, here's my evidence, then the trade stands.
You know, I was thinking about well everything we've like talked about in the like the last past little bit, right? Like people watching this are gonna either really like to play with us or really hate to play with us.
I've been learning most people hate to play with me.
Kaleb is such a good barterer that sometimes his trades are like so insane that like I think Heidi had to like get out a paper one time and like write it down to be like, okay, that's what I'm getting. That's okay, yeah, that's equal. And then you end up like getting something extra out of it. I don't even know how.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is like you can assign your own value to your resources. You know, like yeah, like there's a ton of sheep in the game, but I have it all. And it's like, yeah, it's just a sheep, but you obviously really need it, so I'm going to milk it as much as I can.
Yeah.
And like I've learned that I kind of enjoy that power. And it's like I want the game to move quickly, but not quick enough that I'm just going to give the game away in a trade.
Yes.
Like I very seldomly do a one for one trade.
Kaleb is very much so like you how do I put this? Like
I'm a
if
little
you
bit of a mob boss.
yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. You said it, not me.
Yeah. And I'll also egg on trades where if someone's like, "Hey, do you want to trade this one for one?" I'm like, "Hold on here, you can get more out of that."
Also, Kaleb does something that really gets me, and mostly because it affects me. If there's a trade that's going to happen that he knows is going to negatively affect his game, he prevents it from happening. So, like, if I'm like, hey, Janessa, do you want, I'll trade you 2 sheep for 2 brick. Caleb will be like, well, I'll trade you 3 sheep for 2 brick. And I'm like, well, hold on. It's my turn, first of all. You're not even supposed to be saying anything. And then, but like, if Janessa's after me, Janessa will be like, well, obviously I want 3 sheep. So then she'll wait and not trade with me to trade with Caleb. And
I
that's
don't think
not,
I've ever done that.
yes, you have.
No, I will
You
do it.
definitely have.
I don't pre-trade. I
You,
don't
I do specifically remember saying, if you wait, I have a better deal.
That's not a pre-trade. That's just saying I have a better deal. And then she has to wait for her turn to hear the deal and she might not take it.
Either way, though, Caleb, I'm just saying, like, that type of like trade exists in Caleb's mind. And like, I've adopted it, and so has everyone else, but like,
I think oh go ahead.
it's just like an eat or eat world if you play on the level Caleb plays.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing is the currency that we created, which is a robber pass.
Yes, I love the robber pass.
We used to do deals where it's like, oh, like if you do this, I won't put the robber on you the next time I move the robber. And so it's like an immediate thing, but we've like created a currency where it's a robber pass that you can use at any time. Where like, so if I gave Paige a robber pass the next time I rolled a 7, she doesn't necessarily have to use it.
Mm-mm.
Like if I go and put it on her and she's just like, you know what, I don't care about my 2 of sheep right now, then
Well,
I can
also,
just steal from her and she still has a robber pass.
it's sort of interesting the way we used it because like, if Caleb knows that I have his robber pass, he's gonna want to get it back. So he'll like pretend to put it on me,
I
threatening
don't
me.
pretend, I straight put it on you.
But he's like, give me my robber pass back, essentially. He doesn't say those words. He's like, okay, I'm putting it here, and I have to choose to use it. It's sort of like a dance you play, right? But I know Caleb doesn't want to put it on me, right? I only have sheep. He wants brick. So the person to put brick on would probably be like Preston or Janessa or Heidi or Porter, or Ren, or Nate, anyone
Or
else.
dad.
Anyone else has brick, but I only have sheep, and I know that it's going to hurt him in the long run. I'm gonna keep my robber pass. So
Okay,
it's
but I also just always love putting it on you. Like I don't really care that much.
I know, but a little part of you is like, I have the power because I made you put it there.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I do the same thing. Should we move on now?
Yes, pop culture babies.
Yeah, to the babies of Catan.
They're
There's
so
a lot.
cute. There's so many.
Catan got busy.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I think something that we should talk about, and I'm just gonna include them all in one, is the expansion packs.
Yes, the all the well, what do you mean expansion packs? Okay, actually, yes. Are you saying expansion or extension?
I would say an expansion. So let me just say, okay, first of all, they have an expansion. The game comes for 1 to 4 players, but then there's an expansion to extend it to 5 or 6 players.
So you're talking about the extension.
Okay, that's the extension.
Yes, the extension extends it to 5 to 6 players.
Okay, now you go.
And then there's like a million expansions.
Yes,
Fun fact, I have never played a single expansion.
I have. They're not okay. Well, maybe I'll get some fire for this. For the one that I played, wasn't that fun.
Was it Seafarers?
Yes.
Ooh.
Ugh, that's like the most popular one.
What was the first one?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was the first one.
What was
Was
the
it?
first one then?
There's a lot of them. There's like ones that have even been discontinued, like Stone Age, like Star something.
I'm gonna look up all Catan expansions real quick.
This one says 9.
There's 9 expansions.
It says that there is
Wait, let me see if I let me see how many I can get. So there's Seafarers.
mhm.
Uh,
Wait, hold on.
not, oh, hey, it just loaded up for me.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, Knights and Robbers is another one.
Cities and Knights.
Oh, it's Cities and Knights. Then what's the one with robbers?
There's not one with robbers.
There's totally one with robbers.
There's one with traders and barbarians.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking of. Um, Explorers and Pirates. I have it up now.
Then there's Oil Springs,
Oil Springs.
Frenemies of Catan, historical scenarios. And then there's 2 of those. It's either Alexander and I don't know how to say it, Chops
I
or
don't know.
Troy and the Great Wall. Then there's scenario packs, which are like the base game, and these are just added on. It's the game book, Atlantis, Settlers of Hesse, Catan, Austria. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Syria, North Rhine, Gold of Akin Morpork. I don't know what that is.
Golda back in Morkbork.
Yeah. I wish I wish you guys could see how it's spelled. Maybe I'll put it up there. But then there's also like different types of Catan, which is Starfarers, Starship, and then there's Catan Adventure and then there's even card games.
And Catan Junior.
Oh, Catan for kids.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there is so much Catan. Too
so
much.
much. There's so much. I don't know if we recorded this, but you said that there's $4 billion worth in Catan.
Yes. Yeah.
And also
Probably more now.
we
When I looked at it, that was like 3 years ago.
something that I think is interesting that Catan has only ever done once, I think, is they made a Catan, but in Game of Thrones, like themed. I think if Catan got into the themed era, they'd make a lot more money too.
Well, okay, here's the thing about that though. Like I feel like if you're gonna do that really well, it's gonna be a set board every time. And that's when Catan starts to lose some of its magic.
That's true.
Like we play so variably that literally everything is changed. Like we play that like I've played with people where the border is always set up where like 1 connects to 1, 2 connects to 2, so on and so forth, you know? And red numbers cannot touch each other if you're gonna be variable with the numbers. Or I've played with people where it's just there's an actual order for the numbers. on the back of your numbers, it has like letters A, B, C, D, and it's supposed to go in that order in a spiral.
Yeah.
And that always puts like a two next to a six. It just kind of equalizes the numbers.
Yeah.
So I've played where people play like that, or like at least red numbers can't touch each other. And I've played where um one resource can't touch more than one of itself, kind of thing.
That would
So
be
you'll
so hard.
you'll never end up with three wood next to each other, or three brick next to each other.
Yeah, I've never really gotten in because the game is can change so much. I've never really gotten into the extensions or expansions really.
Well, what I'm talking about is just the base game.
Yeah, but I'm saying that exactly like the base game, because technically there is like a base game what you just explained, but because of all of the extra rules that we've done, it changes enough for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if they came out with a Legend of Zelda Catan, um, I mean, brick would always have to be over where the Gerudo Desert. Well, I guess that's actually where the robbers would be.
Well, what
But
I'm
like,
saying is like they made like an like I've been on Etsy and looking at all these custom boards. They had an Avatar: The Last Airbender one with like the four nations. So instead of having um like brick, you'd have earth, and then instead of um wood, you'd have I guess that'd also be earth, but maybe water. I don't know. Like it just changes like the game stays the same, but instead of having like resources, you have like whatever the like a theme of whatever fandom you're in.
yeah, so you'd have to find a fandom that would have five resources that you can do that with.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying though is like they could make more money for it. But there's already a lot of pop culture babies that they don't need to.
Yeah, no, that they're like they really don't need to.
But so
My
if
my
you,
boy Klaus did good for himself.
which by the way, he did pass away this year,
No
so
way.
rest in peace. Yeah.
R.I.P. Klaus.
Um, yeah, so if you are looking, I guess it sort of goes into like how to get involved. If you're looking to buy Catan to get into it, to like maybe like dip your toes into it a little bit, make sure it's just regular old Catan.
Red box. You want the red box of
Yes.
Catan.
Yes. Well, also along with I guess pop culture babies, like I have a Catan shirt on that I got from Etsy. Like the fans themselves have created this culture where like I've done, I think like for a birthday card, I've done like Catan birthday cards, you know, like it just I said something like I would never trade a second with yours. I don't remember something cheesy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like I found metal pieces. You can buy metal pieces.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I bought that old version is so I could modify it to fit my needs. You know, like I was gonna like paint like the pieces and stuff.
Don't.
Yeah, not anymore. Woo!
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Me too. I'm gonna go look it up on eBay.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of pop culture babies. Just Google search Catan, you'll find them.
But okay, so how do you get involved? I would say reach out to somebody that you know has Catan. If you don't know anybody, I know a game store will host a Catan night.
Oh, that's really good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you can handle the smell. I know that's very stereotypical of me to say, but I've never been inside a game store that doesn't smell.
it's true. That is very
Like
true.
it's very sad, but Dungeons and Dragons sessions go on very long and sometimes those people forget to put on deodorant and they eat pizza and then it mixes.
Yep.
So
Not a good smell.
I'm sorry if I offended anyone by saying that, but just find an establishment that maybe smells good.
Well, also like maybe like go on Facebook, you find friends, or better yet, if you already have a set group of friends that you guys meet together and you play together, then you can go to I know like some libraries will rent out board games. So
Oh yeah.
you could go borrow one for free, look up on YouTube or wherever you prefer. If you like prefer to read the rules. If you prefer to watch it, go on YouTube. Like just create an environment that you feel comfortable in to learn how to play Catan. Because if you're in an environment where you feel pressured or you feel that these people are just too advanced for you, then you're not gonna like it. Well, maybe you will. I don't know.
Maybe it depends on your personality.
But I do remember, and this is something that we didn't do for Rocket League. Out of a 5, Kaleb,
Oh,
how would you rate like Catan?
5.9.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, out of a 5.9. Yes,
I think I'd
hands
put it.
down, best board game I've ever played.
I think I would put it at a 4.9. I would take away point 0.1 solely for the fact.
Did I build a settlement in the middle of your road? Get over it.
I would just say that sometimes it's hard to find people who play at the same capacity as you.
Okay, sounds like a skill issue, but
Okay, well, I'll raise it to a
that that
4.95.
that doesn't. But the game itself is a 5, and
Okay,
you
yeah, the
know it.
game, you know what? Let's just scratch it. Sorry, everybody. Based on that, solely off of not my own prejudices, I would say, yeah, it is a 5.
Yeah, it's a great game. Like, but maybe you're right. Maybe we should give it a 4.9 because we play it with so many modified rules.
Based on just theirs, okay, 4.9.
Yeah, their rules 4.9. Play with us
5.
5.
Anything else
But
you want to add?
other people are like, I'm not playing with you. I heard what you did.
They like stand in front of me to like protect me from you.
Whatever, they're gonna be holding you back.
Hold my poodle. Hold my poodle.
No, I don't really have anything to add. It does sound like an intimidating game, but it is a lot of fun. I will add, um, the first time I ever played Catan was when Ren got it for Christmas. Like, I was introduced to it at the reunion, but the first time I actually played it was when Ren got it for Christmas. And the missionaries were over, and one of them played, and he straight cut both my settlements off from each other by building a road. And I was so mad because also he was not nice about it.
Yeah.
And I still love Catan. Like, that's really what I'm getting at. You could have just such a terrible experience, but if you're able to remove yourself from the people and look at the game itself, it's a very good, very clever game.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
So go play, guys. And if you ultimately, if you can't find anyone and we're in the same city as you, for sure we'll play.
Yeah. Or if you just want to go buy it, it's like $60, or I've seen it on sale for 30.
Yeah, wait till Black Friday. Do 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 do.
Oh, mana. It's 47.99 on Amazon right now. And
Perfect.
that's not even like a price slash or anything. That's just regular price.
You may also be able to find it on Facebook Marketplace if you are into secondhand games, which is where I got mine.
But just be careful, you might not have all the pieces.
Yeah, make sure you look that up before you go.
Yeah, you're supposed to have, I think, 15 roads, 5 settlements, 4 cities, 4 colors, 1 robber, 2 dice, 3 ore, 3 brick, 4 of every other resource, 1 desert, and 6 border pieces. Unless you get a hex set like Paige, I don't even know how many.
I don't know. I just trusted the guy. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it.
Cool. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Wow.
Nerd.